What if the smallest act of kindness you do today returns to save your life years later? A cup of tea, a warm smile, or a helping hand may seem insignificant in the moment, but sometimes one good deed never truly disappears. It quietly waits for the right time to come back when you need it the most. This is the story of Ethan, a poor young delivery boy whose greatest treasure wasn't money or success, but a heart full of kindness. At just 23 years old, Ethan spent his days riding an old bicycle through the crowded streets of the city, delivering food from one neighborhood to another. His clothes were worn, his bicycle creaked with every turn, and his wallet was almost always empty. Yet everyone who knew him admired him. Whenever an elderly person struggled to cross the street, Ethan would stop and help. If someone dropped their groceries, he was the first to pick them up. If a child was crying, he would always find a way to make them smile. His friends often laughed at him and said, "Kindness won't pay your bills." Ethan would simply smile and reply, "Maybe not, but it keeps my heart rich." One rainy evening, dark clouds covered the city, and heavy rain poured onto the empty streets. Most delivery workers hurried home, eager to escape the storm. But Ethan noticed an elderly man sitting alone at a bus stop. The man's clothes were completely soaked, and he looked exhausted. Countless people walked past without even looking at him. Ethan stopped his bicycle and gently asked, "Sir, are you all right?" The old man smiled weakly and replied, "I've been waiting here for over 2 hours. My phone died and I don't have enough money for a taxi." Without thinking twice, Ethan reached into his pocket and took out the small amount of money he had earned that entire day. He bought the old man a hot cup of tea and paid for a taxi to take him home. The taxi driver looked at Ethan and asked, "What about you?" Ethan laughed softly and said, "I'll ride home." He cycled nearly 10 kilometers through the freezing rain. By the time he reached his tiny apartment, he had developed a high fever. He missed 3 days of work, fell behind on his rent, and barely had enough money to buy food, yet he never regretted helping the stranger. Months passed, but nothing extraordinary happened. No reward arrived, no mysterious phone call came. Life remained difficult, and sometimes Ethan wondered if kindness really made any difference. Still, he refused to change. He continued helping others whenever he had the chance, because he believed kindness should never depend on receiving something in return. Then, one morning, everything changed. Ethan arrived at work only to find his manager waiting with a serious expression. "We're reducing staff," the manager said quietly. "I'm sorry, but today is your last day." In a single moment, Ethan lost the only job that kept him alive. Days turned into weeks as his savings disappeared. He sold his bicycle, then his watch, and finally packed his few belongings because he could no longer afford his rent. With nowhere to go, he walked through a nearby park carrying a small bag that held everything he owned. Suddenly, a black luxury car stopped beside him. A well-dressed driver stepped out and politely asked, "Are you Mr. Ethan?" Confused, Ethan nodded. "Someone would like to meet you," the driver said as he opened the rear door. Sitting inside was an elegant, elderly gentleman. Ethan stared for a moment before recognizing him. It was the same old man he had helped on that rainy evening. The gentleman smiled warmly and said, "I've been searching for you." He introduced himself as William, the owner of several successful companies. Ethan could hardly believe what he was hearing. William explained, "That night, you were the only person who stopped to help me. I wasn't testing anyone. I was simply stranded, and you spent your last money helping a complete stranger. I never forgot your kindness." William admitted that over the following months, he had quietly asked people about Ethan. He spoke to neighbors, shopkeepers, co-workers, and everyone who knew him. Every single person described Ethan the same way: honest, humble, and always willing to help others. William smiled and said, "I don't hire people because they're the smartest. I hire people because they're trustworthy. Skills can be taught, but character cannot." Then he offered Ethan a job as his personal assistant. Ethan hesitated, saying, "I don't have the experience." William simply smiled and replied, "Experience can be gained. Integrity cannot." Ethan accepted the opportunity, worked harder than ever before, and quickly earned the respect of everyone around him. His honesty, dedication, and kindness transformed the company, and within a few years, he became one of its most trusted managers. The poor delivery boy who once worried about buying dinner was now leading hundreds of employees. One afternoon, while leaving the office, Ethan noticed a young delivery boy standing outside with tears in his eyes. His bicycle chain had snapped, and he whispered, "If I'm late again, I'll lose my job." Without saying a word, Ethan knelt beside the bicycle, repaired the chain himself, and handed the young man enough money to buy a brand new bicycle. The boy looked at him in disbelief and thanked him over and over again. Ethan simply smiled and said, "Years ago, someone gave me a chance. Today, it's my turn to do the same." Life has a remarkable way of returning the kindness we give, often when we least expect it. A single good deed may seem small today, but its impact can travel far beyond what we can imagine. You may never know whose life you're changing with one act of compassion, and perhaps one day when you need help the most, that same kindness will find its way back to you. Remember, one good deed has the power to change someone else's life, and sometimes it changes your own forever.